Hello, it's Sophia Caceres, and in today's video, I'll be talking about the year 1965. The first event is the Civil Rights Movement. In brief terms, it could be described as individuals and groups fighting to achieve equality for African Americans under the law, and peacefully. These groups sought to dismantle Jim Crow laws, integrate public facilities, and secure voting rights for African Americans. To achieve their goal, these groups would organize nonviolent protests, sit-ins, marches, and boycotts. These were all very common tactics used to challenge segregation and discrimination in hopes of ending racial segregation. For example, on March 7, 1965, Martin Luther King Jr. organized a peaceful march on Selma, Alabama, to the state's capital, Montgomery, to call for a federal voting rights law that would provide legal support for disenfranchised African Americans in the South. The Voting Rights of 1965 were signed into law by President Lyndon B. Johnson on August 6. This was a landmark piece of legislation that outlawed discriminatory voting practices, particularly those targeting African Americans. It also aimed to ensure equal access to voting for all citizens, regardless of race or ethnicity. The act prohibited the use of literacy tests and other methods used to disenfranchise voters. States and local governments with a history of discrimination needed federal approval for any changes to their election laws. Lastly, the act authorized the Attorney General to challenge the use of poll taxes in state and local elections, which were subsequently declared unconstitutional. Now, one of the most popular movies in 1965 was The Sound of Music, directed by Robert Wise. The Sound of Music is an American musical drama film. It's a tuneful, heartwarming story and is based on the real-life story of the Von Trapp family singers. Julia Andrews plays the role of Maria, the tomboyish postulant at an Austrian abbey who becomes a governess in the home of a widowed naval captain with 7 children and brings a new love of life and music into the home. The trailer of this movie shows the family that Maria will be taking care of and how she comes into their life and changes it for the better. One of the most famous songs in this movie is Favorite Thing. The most famous scene in this movie is the opening scene, where Maria sings The Sound of Music. This scene has become instantly recognizable with this movie. Now, the Battle of La Drang. It was a series of engagements between American and North Vietnamese forces in the La Drang Valley in November 1965. These battles marked one of the first major clashes between the U.S. The battle highlighted the strengths and weaknesses of both sides, including the American reliance on air mobility and heavy fire support and the North Vietnamese adaptation to close quarters combat. The battle resulted in significant casualties on both sides, with American forces experiencing 234 deaths and 242 wounded. North Vietnamese losses were estimated to be much higher, ranging from 1,800 to 2,000. The battle led to a shift in American strategy, with increased emphasis on air mobility and air support. The North Vietnamese also learned to exploit the limitations of American firepower by engaging in close quarters combat. Now, Operation Desert Hawk. It was in Rann of Kutch, and its codename came from a military operation planned by the Pakistan Army. Between January and June 1965, the Pakistani military tested India's response to aggression. This was the Operation Desert Hawk in April. Operation Desert Hawk was a key event leading up to the larger conflict between India and Pakistan in September 1965. It demonstrated a willingness to use military force to achieve territorial goals and assesses the Indian military's response. Pakistani troops captured strategic positions. This led to a series of armed clashes with Indian forces. The fighting ended in June when India and Pakistan signed an agreement brokered by the United Kingdom. Now, here are some of the top songs in 3 different genres. First, starting off with country. What's He Doing in My World? Eddie Arnold. I've Got a Tiger by the Tail. Buck Owens. Yes, Mr. Peters. Priscilla Mitchell. Now for pop songs. I Can't Get No Satisfaction by the Rolling Stones. You Were on My Mind by We5. Help by the Beatles, and lastly for rock, like a Rolling Stone, Bob Dylan, Ticket to Ride, the Beatles, and The Sound of Silence by Simon and Garfunkel. One of my personal favorite discoveries or inventions in the year 1965 is Gatorade. Gatorade! This sports drink started an industry and changed sporting events from then on. It was invented at the University of Florida College of Medicine by a team of researchers led by Dr. Robert Cade. Gatorade was first field tested in a football scrimmage near the site and was first used in an October 1965 Gator victory. Since the school's nickname is the Gators, the initial idea for a name was Gatorade, eventually sticking to the name Gatorade. During the first years of its release, the cost to make Gatorade was around $43, but fast forward to the year 2025, coming to about $325 to make. Thus, the year 1965. Thank you so much for watching. Goodbye.